Hello everyone, this is Alpa Shah, social entrepreneur, author and finance professional, founder Empower Education and managing trustee Freedom Foundation. I have a very special guest with me today, Mr. Vishal Kapoor, who's the CEO of Bandhan Mutual Fund. He's the wealth management man of India. He has graduated from IIM Ahmedabad and he's on the board of MFI and chairing ARN committee at MFI. A very warm welcome, Mr. Vishal Kapoor.
Thanks, Alpa, for having me.
Vishal sir, my first question to you is that mutual fund industry is growing rapidly, but at the same time, there is lot of changes from the compliance point of view and also the governance of regulatory authority is quite prominent. What is your view? How it will impact the mutual fund industry? Will it be positive? Personally, I feel that any industry which grows, if there is a good governance from the higher authorities, it works wonderfully well. What is your view, Mr. Vishal?
No, thanks for asking, Alpa. So I do know that a lot of us feel a bit of uncertainty whenever change comes our way, and regulatory change is definitely one of them. We typically our reaction will be to resist it and question it, etc. But I think it's important to look back and if we trace some of the biggest and the most significant regulatory changes that have happened, how we thought about it then and where we are today. That could be one way to think about it. So I remember being part of the distribution community at that point in time in my previous role, when in 2008-9, suddenly the entire upfront load that used to be paid by mutual funds was abolished. Yeah. And many of us in the distribution community felt at that point that this is no longer going to be a growth business. We should get out and we should start focusing our energies on other more lucrative distribution professions. And that was 2008. In 2012, just to remind ourselves, our industry was just about 6 lakh crores in terms of AUM. Today we are 57 lakh crores. Yes. So that's about 7 times growth in the last 10-12 years. The point being that at that time, it looked like upfront load being abolished means the death knell of this industry, and look at where we are. And since then, we've seen, transparency go up with a lot more disclosures, commissions come down. So first it's upfront load, then upfront commission altogether came down. Direct plans being introduced when we felt that, why should the investor now come through a distributor and, they will go direct and all these sort of things will happen. We've had now more recently TERs coming down as sizes go up, categorization of mutual funds, more recently taxation changes in fixed income mutual funds. So there's a plethora of very significant regulatory changes. And if I think about it, I would broadly classify it under 2 buckets. One is what I would call structural changes, which is coming largely out of what the regulator sees as either emerging risks, for example, risk of mis-selling, where you feel that people are buying and selling mutual funds without an underlying need, just because it pays a commission to do that. Or it is around transparency, where you feel that people don't know enough about the product they're buying. So these are broadly structural. Or it has been reacting to an emerging risk or a near risk. So for example, something went wrong in the industry, something bad happened. And then you look at how can we correct this? So that's a bit of a learning and a response to something that has not worked out well. Suppose the credit crisis, for example, a string of regulatory changes around, for example, making a very unique and a very, very quantitative driven riskometer is a case in point. Having the full PRC matrix for fixed income funds is a case in point. Setting up CDMDF as well as the AMC Repo Corporation is a case in point. So what I'm trying to say is that at the time when regulation happens, it looks like it is going to adversely impact our business. But I think what we will all see and agree is that it has led to a far more healthier industry for all of us. Absolutely. And most importantly, it has benefited the investor, because today I think we can all agree that the industry is extremely transparent. very competitive, which means that both performance and costs is, you can't be an outlier on either and hope to do well in the industry. So there's a self-governing almost mechanism. And it works at a level where the regulator and the industry collaborate very closely to be able to look at how we can implement some of the best practices, which makes sense for India, not necessarily what has worked overseas. In fact, in many areas, I do think we've led rather than follow what happens in the rest of the world. And therefore, I would encourage that look beyond the immediate change that one has to make when a regulatory circular comes our way. Look at the larger picture, and the larger picture has been that it has worked in our advantage.
Thank you, Vishal, sir. I think absolutely agree with you. The regulatory framework, the rules and regulation, compliances, transparency, whatever they are trying to put in place, it's finally going to be for the growth of industry, our mutual fund industry. And eventually we all will grow, the investors, mutual fund distributors, AMCs, and we must acknowledge the hard work which they are also putting in to regularize the entire industry. Next question is, what do you feel? How technology can enhance the business growth, customer satisfaction, acquiring new clients, etc., especially in the context of mutual fund distributors and financial advisors, because I think the future is technology, artificial intelligence. What's your view? What is your guidance and advice? How our mutual fund distributor can leverage to the fullest with the help of technology?
So, Alpa, I do think that our mutual fund industry, whether it is AMCs or whether it is registrars or whether it is the entire ecosystem of service providers, including custodians, and most importantly, our distribution partners, have actually been at the forefront of leveraging technology, and that has, kept us ahead of many of the challenges we would have otherwise faced. Case in point being the ugly period of COVID, where suddenly you get into lockdown.
True.
And I think we must all be proud that despite the hardship of that period, the industry continued. There was never a single day where you could not access your money.
Absolutely.
Should you wanted it at that point in time. Because I think the ecosystem, whether it is the AMCs, the distribution community, the banks, everyone came together and made sure that markets as well as the funds were always open.
True.
So if you needed your money, it was always there. So that's a case in point of during a stressful time, how we were able to do this, because we had already invested into digital technology. Had we not,
Absolutely.
I'm afraid to think about what would have happened, right? But if we look more broadly at technology, I see it in 4 or 5 distinct buckets of where we are continuously adding value. So firstly, technology helped us give information more real time, more transparently, with a lot of analytics, etc. In the old days, it was setting up a website, having information there, and then over time now there's a whole host of other ways in which you can access information. So consuming information is one role in which we can use. And again, each of these streams have developed to become far more diverse and far more customer friendly. So whether it is through social media that you already track, or whether it's through alerts or apps, so that's one area. Then we move to transaction execution. So information is there, but you can also transact. And when you get into transaction, that's also evolved from a clunky way of transacting, logging in, putting in a transaction, to now a very simple, very easy way of transacting. Easy to log in, face recognition, etc., and a swipe, and you can get your transaction done. So again, that's been a whole area of development. It can get better and better. The third area I would like to emphasize is how you can use technology to become more efficient. Now, as an AMC and as any other industry, you've got to be able to compete effectively. Like we said, our industry is highly competitive, which is a good thing, which means it keeps us all on our toes. As a distributor, you've got to do the same. So how do you leverage technology to become better than what you were yesterday is one way to think about it. And that's where a whole host of tools, from the earlier days of just simply Excel being a big leap over paper ledgers, to now being able to use AI technology, ChatGPT, etc., to really simplify your work, become more productive, is the way to go. Now, I don't want to put a finger on saying, therefore, this will happen, because this is evolving so quickly. So the rule I would follow is that, whatever it is that is getting thrown by the tech industry at us, let's embrace it, understand it fully, see if it is useful, look at real use cases. Typically at Bandhan AMC, we will do a proof of concept or a pilot and see if it works. And if it works, then wholeheartedly embrace it and incorporate it. And I think through this process and through this cycle, you can keep getting better and better and better. It's all about being dynamic. It's reflected in our mutual funds slogan, which is "Barte Raho," as you can see. And that's about not settling down, settling in, and just using every opportunity we get to improve. Now, so that was about efficiency. What's very interesting is that in fund management, this has now gone to what I would call the next level, which is how do you use technology and data to actually deliver better returns? That's happening through a lot of the quant models and quant-based fund management that is also becoming very popular and has delivered now for some time. At Bandhan, we were early adopters of quant-based investing. We set up a PMS way back in 2017, which uses AI ML to construct a portfolio. It's a long-only portfolio. It's not a quant hedge fund. It's not an arbitrage fund. It's not a high-frequency trading model. This is a long buy and hold type of a model. But what it does give us is a lot of experience in understanding how, in the Indian context, how factors have worked or not worked, where they have slipped, where they have not slipped, where is the value coming from. And clearly it shows a lot of potential. Part of that is now getting reflected through index funds and passives. So this is another interesting use case of core data, of the data's ability to spot trends and patterns which the human brain may miss or may capture only much later. So the speed at which it can do this is another area of leverage. So clearly a lot going on. As a partner, as an MFD, I think the idea is that look at the new technology that is coming your way, embrace it, test it out, and if you think this can give you an edge, certainly embrace it. If not, then I do think one should be careful about being left out in an environment which is so dynamic, where someone else is going to do this far better than you are.
Wow. Vishal sir, I completely agree with all your viewpoints. In fact, one thing I would like to add that during COVID, thanks to online, every mutual fund distributor got their trail commission absolutely on time. There were job losses, pay cuts, but this is one industry, and I salute and respect to the mutual fund industry that never ever they have missed paying any of us on time. So in continuation with your talk regarding passive funds, I would like to ask you, my next question is, what is your view on passive funds and how Bandhan Mutual Fund is so active and the future plans? How it's going to be beneficial to our investors if they invest in passive funds going forward?
So, one, I think passive, sometimes we confuse passive as being only the broad index and therefore somewhat boring. And I would want to challenge you and think again, because passive is actually a very exciting, interesting place, because there's a lot that can be done in the space. At a fundamental level, this is about saying that there's a style of management where a talented team of people led by a fund manager picks up securities on a certain basis. But there's also a different world where through quant triggers, you can pick up securities and make a portfolio. So it's a very different way of coming to the same objective of trying to beat the broad market and creating some bit of alpha. Of course, you can always be a passive and just track the market if that's the objective. So that's also a very, very popular way to do this. And I think worldwide, a lot of gurus have said that it's impossible to beat the market long term. So if you can't beat it, may as well reduce your cost and just track it. And that's good enough outcome for many people. And that's obviously a perfectly sensible view as well. The reality is that I think choice to investors is, I would argue, always a good thing. And if investors would like to be inactive, which will have its own waves of being able to select stocks and ideas and themes which have not as yet gone into the quant world and become a popular thing. Early movers in that. You could access that through a very, very wide range of active managed funds that we offer as well, including thematics, which have done quite well. If you'd rather go on to the other side and say, look, I don't want to risk whether the fund manager or the team will be able to deliver value, and a quant model intuitively sounds better to you, then there's a range of passive as well. Globally, we've seen both have done well. They're two distinct styles.
Absolutely.
You can't really say that this is the only way out.
Yes.
It's like saying, whether value works or growth works. There are cycles, there are times when, each can do well. So which cycle are you on, and therefore how they may operate in the future is different. For many now, moving from active to passive, understanding passive is the first step. I would certainly say that if you've not looked at that world, please do, because clearly if your investor is looking very actively into that world, a lot of investors we see online moving on to passive products, index products, then you should as well, because I would definitely encourage that be where your investors are rather than the other way around. So do take a look at that market. It is growing rapidly for good reason, but that may not necessarily mean that that's the only way forward.
Correct.
Because it's a bit of choice. So there's a new world which is opened up.
Okay.
Certainly take a deep look. We would want to offer both and let the best product win.
Yeah. So Vishal, please throw some light on how Bandhan Mutual Fund equity schemes have transformed of late. What is the process? What is the strategy you all have been following?
So firstly, Alpa, thanks for noting the fact that our funds, equity funds specifically, have done remarkably well over the last 12 to 18 months or so. As with any process, I think we must appreciate that it's dynamic. We are trying to learn with every cycle and then seeing what we can do to improve ourselves. Like I said, Bartero is also about learning and expanding all the time. It's not being static. So a few things that we noted were as follows. Firstly, stock selection, which is one of the core areas where a fund manager can add value, was getting limited unless you go much deeper into the market, into the available list of stocks, which means that your research coverage has to dramatically increase. So one of the things we did was we expanded our research coverage. We added a whole host of new talent onto our team. And over the last year or so, we more than doubled the number of stocks that is now available to our fund managers to select from. So that's one area, which is go deeper. That allows the fund manager to have access to a lot more ideas to put into portfolios which can generate alpha. So that's one, which meant investing into a larger team. The second is that I think consistently we've received feedback from partners, from investors, that even if we don't want and we don't expect, absolute quartile one or top of the table performance all the time, we understand that things will go up and down. But give us more consistency, try and be closer to the average, because no one likes volatility intrinsically. I don't want the fund to be number one in 1 year and then number 54th in the second year and then move up again. So we want a lot more consistency. And the way I think we look at volatility, we said let's look at it's almost upside down, because volatility is typically a measure of how NAV has done, which is post-fact. We said that can we put a process where the input parameters into a portfolio can be managed for volatility or risk. And that's a fairly evolved framework that the team has put in place, which essentially controls all the input risk that a fund is able to take. And we define it at a fund level, so that for any fund is defined, the guardrails or the swim lanes are defined upfront to say this is the amount of maximum risk the fund is able to take. Similar thing happens in fixed income through other pre-RC metrics as an example, because you define what is the maximum credit or duration risk a fund manager is taking. So similar concept in equity is what we define through 7 or 8 parameters that a fund is held to, which defines how much risk to take. So what that does is thankfully so far brought in a lot more stability, consistency into the performance of the fund. And the third thing, which we should never underemphasize, is the working together of a team, the culture within the team, how they're motivated, how they're rewarded, how it comes together, which is again, as they say, the soft stuff is the hard stuff. So that is again something you've got to bring together. So I think under Manish's leadership, the team, which is a combination of some of our very seasoned managers as well as some of the new talent we brought on board, I think it's about getting them together, aligned onto a common goal, which is serving the investors, serving them to the best of our ability. That has worked well so far, knock on wood. And that's something we are hoping to continue while we still challenge ourselves and say, how can we do better?
In continuation to that, Vishal, can you also please guide our mutual fund distributors on usually they focus and recommend equity mutual fund schemes. What is your view? Is fixed income products or asset allocation a very key portion of their advice to their clients? Please guide us.
So, in fact, Alpa, this is one topic that is closest to my heart.
I know that.
Because I do think that many of us in the fund industry started at a phase where Indian investors had hardly any exposure to equities, and therefore the growth of the industry in the initial days was largely led by getting some amount of equity investing into their portfolios, and mutual funds have clearly played a good way to be able to do that. But having said that, when we look at many distributors and partners' portfolios across many cities, you see that it's almost dominant equity, and that to me is a bit puzzling, because if one is serving the investor, one has to look at where is the investor's wallet split.
Correct.
And I think that data will tell us that the majority of your investor's wallet is still in fixed income products, not in equity products, right? So if the majority of the customer's wallet is in fixed income and one is not focusing on that part of the wallet, how can you have a material impact on the customer's life and prosperity? And that cannot be by ignoring what may be a good 80-90% of the current wallet of the customers, right? So that to me is clearly the first opportunity. Many of our partners talk about how can I grow?
True.
And to me, the answer is there in the customer's wallet, because one is only catering to, at an aggregate, maybe 20, 30, 40, 50% of the wallet, not more. So to increase the wallet, one has to look at fixed income, because we must recognize that the large part of India's wallet is still in fixed income products, whichever name you call it: fixed deposit, provident fund, insurance, other government schemes, etc. Right? Unfortunately, there's still a lot of money going into unregulated products. So that's again a clear opportunity for us. Now, coming to fixed income, many of us may not have got into it because it was not commercially viable. Some of us did not get into it because there were some accidents on the way and we got scared. And now of late we are saying, oh, the big advantage is gone. So yeah, the advantage is gone, but it is still at par with the most closest competitive products. So it's at par, it's not at a disadvantage. The second is that I think as we get to understand fixed income, one must recognize that a great opportunity may be right in front of us, because typically the way debt mutual funds are structured, open-ended ones, the benefit of mark-to-market gives you the advantage of not having to worry about reinvestment risk in some sense, because as interest rates or yields fall, you do get the value locked in through mark-to-market, and of course the fund manager is looking at a portfolio which is dynamic as well. So there are two levels of additional advantage that a mutual fund offers, as opposed to the other competing fixed income products which are interest bearing. So a lot of people tell us that, oh, why should I look at a fixed income fund when past returns have not been very attractive and other deposit products offer me good, locked in returns. But that's exactly the reason that if you look ahead and if you believe that current rates are reasonably attractive and it may actually go down over time, which is what a large part of the market seems to believe, this is a product that allows you to lock in a lot of the gain through mark-to-market, as well as reduce your reinvestment risk significantly. So it's a great opportunity rather than a point where you can afford to ignore this. So certainly I would encourage everyone please take a much more detailed look at the fixed income product. Fixed income funds today have actually become significantly stronger than the last few episodes that may not have been as savory for you. Keep in mind the regulators also work with the industry to put a lot more checks and balances in place. And as we look ahead, I have no doubt in my mind that, and we see that with very sophisticated investors all the time, that at a fundamental level, the product does offer you a great amount of advantage at an extremely low cost that is difficult to beat across many other similar products that you would otherwise come across. Most importantly, be a material part of your customer's wallet. Otherwise, fundamentally, I would argue that you're not having as much or as good an impact as you could have if you were actually dealing with a full part of the customer's savings.
So Vishal, I am a very long-term investor in Bandhan Mutual Fund. Earlier, it was IDFC Mutual Fund. So can you please tell us your experience in the journey of this transition from IDFC to Bandhan?
So I must say it's been a very exciting time because the opportunity of launching a brand new brand and working with a new set of shareholders of a new board, I think has been energizing in several ways. Now, coming from the very strong parentage that we had in IDFC and earlier than that, Stanchart, I think we've had the benefit of fabulous people, great processes, great set of products, etc. Now getting with the new, the ownership structure that we have, new shareholders, the benefit of three very strong shareholders coming together to support the management team, to support our further growth aspirations, I think is a rare opportunity. Now, a bit about the shareholders. So certainly we've taken our name from the dominant shareholder, which is the Bandhan Financial Services Group. Bandhan, for many of you, will know that it's a name that stands for financial inclusion in India. I've personally experienced some of the work they've done in rural India to see it's just outstanding, the ability for them to have an impact, a material impact in helping people, very, very underprivileged or poor people, with access to formal finance and how that's been able to transform their lives. Not just for thousands or lakhs, but millions of people. So at scale, and having done this for over 20 years now. So very proud to be part of a legacy and part of a brand name that's done so much to uplift and bring inclusion to rural India. We've also got GIC, which is one of the foremost names in international investing. GIC is the sovereign wealth fund of the government of Singapore. Deep investors, long-term investors, among the most reputed, the most respected investors. So it's great to have at one level an institutional investor with the caliber and the stature of GIC and the inclusion and in the earthy heart of India through the Bandhan Group. We've also got Chris Capital, one of the first private equity funds in India set up domestically and has a fabulous track record of going deep, working with their investee companies and bringing to fore a lot of the experience, a lot of the resources that they have. So I feel privileged, and my management team feels the same way, where you have the benefit of three very distinct, very diverse set of shareholders with respective strengths coming together to support us in our growth journey. What's also good is that, and thankfully that's something now most of our investors and partners have experienced, it does not mean that anything that you loved about us in the past has had to change. So we get the benefit of and the privilege of choosing to keep what we had great in the past, but also get the impetus of three new very strong shareholders now who can help us in our growth journey. And clearly we've, as in the last year, we've invested significantly. We've launched a lot more products, we've opened new locations, we've hired a lot more people to serve you better, and we've invested into both technology, products, people, some of this we spoke about. So this is, again, an exciting journey, and I'd welcome everyone who'd like to partner with us to come on board with us.
So strengths of Bandhan Group, Chris Capital and GIC will surely benefit all our investors in Bandhan Mutual Fund. So Vishal, please also, can you say something on how we can bring in women investors on board and how we can create more and more women financial advisors and mutual fund distributors in our industry. Vishal, you are chairing MFI ARN committee. So, of course, in that role context, you have to answer this.
So across both the industry as well as at Bandhan Mutual Fund, we are taking some significant steps. So at Bandhan, for example, we've got a team dedicated to doing investor awareness to women, as in there's a separate team and a separate, almost an objective of having a certain number of women investors being educated, being made more aware about how they can run their financial lives better. Again, in the area of developing more women MFDs, we've got separate programs running on just being able to develop that cadre of people. And clearly, I think experientially, we know that women MFDs have done a fabulous job in the industry. I think there are many stalwarts, including yourself and so many others, who've been really inspirational to a lot more women MFDs to join the community and help us grow. So clearly, across Bandhan as well as AMFI, there are initiatives that both the AMCs are taking as well as the industry associations are taking. I think this is, I would say that, watch this space, because more announcement will come in this area. At our end, clearly, if you are a women MFD and you'd like to engage, there are specific training program modules that we've developed for helping you very uniquely. And we do think that there are specific opportunities where you might be at an advantage versus the broader market. And that's something we'd want to work with you to help leverage. More ideas are welcome. Like I said, this is a continuous journey. It's not as if we've arrived, but certainly an area that we are investing heavily behind.
Thank you, Vishal. Empower Education's Go Beyond to Grow Beyond is continuously working towards uplifting, upgrading, educating our mutual fund distributors, mainly on one-page goal plan, data, online, artificial intelligence, active versus passive, NRI clients, women clients, how to bring them on board, how to conduct a very good investor awareness program, how to bring in first-time investors on board. And I think Vishal spoke about everything which is so important and crucial for the growth path of our mutual fund distributors in next 10 years. We all talk about Amrit Kal, but are we really going to get benefited with that Amrit Kal personally? So that's what is we all are trying to, help our mutual fund distributors community. We continuously help women mutual fund distributors on how they can excel, succession planning, how to bring in more and more younger generation into this business. Vishal, can you please guide us, all our mutual fund distributors who are struggling to bring in their next generation into this business? I think you can definitely convince them with your thought process. Can you please guide our younger generation why they should join mutual fund industry?
Right. So I think there are several reasons, but firstly, I would say that this is an industry which is a long-term exponential growth industry. By that, this is just not big words, but anyone who has been in the industry for 10, 15, 20, 25 years will recognize the power of compounding in this industry. The fact that this is a unique industry where every element of the industry is uniquely aligned to serve the customer. So if the customer does well, the partner or the intermediary does well, and only then does the AMC does well. So essentially all three have to be working together to make sure that the customer does well. And because of the growth opportunities available in India, the ability for us to be able to offer that through a convenient product to investors has clearly worked very well for many investors, as we've seen through NAV growth and real wealth creation over the last 15, 20 years. This is your chance to directly participate and actually guide that process. But the flip sides are a few. One, it's not a shortcut industry, so you will have to invest deeply. It's like, like we are in the knowledge age. It will need a lot of learning. It will need cumulative amount of effort because it will keep building with experience and more know-how. But as you invest, you will see that the returns from this are exponential in that sense. So it will need a long-term approach. Now, in your family, if you already have someone, the benefit of whether it's your parents or your someone else around, your uncles maybe, etc., and you have the access, we've seen that because it is in the nature of a long-term career opportunity, more and more young people recognize the potential and join in. So at Bandhan Mutual, we, for example, run a program for the next generation who come in. It's a 6-month program called Prarambh, where we offer it as a training program and end with a graduation with a certificate, where every Saturday, every alternate Saturday, you can learn from the best in the industry, people such as Alpa and others who come together and share their experience, share their very, very important knowledge with you to help you step into this role in a convenient, in an easy way. It also creates a community for you so that you can learn from each other. You can pick up some of the best practices that you can bring to your business, your market, and be unique in that sense. So it's a long-term industry. It's as good, if not better, than what a lot of youngsters are doing, which is getting to a startup. So this is far better than in many ways the startup because it doesn't need a lot of capital either. Absolutely. Right? So it's relatively capital light. All it needs is great intent. Firstly, you must be thinking about your investor. It will need you to upgrade your knowledge all the time. So it will challenge you in that sense because this is a knowledge in the economy product. And third, it will need staying power and integrity because you have to stay with the profession, with your customer for a long period of time, and do it with utmost integrity because this is a business about trust. So if you have these three things, this can be among the most rewarding, one of the best decisions you will ever make by jumping in as quickly as possible and then staying the course.
Wow. Integrity, intent, and knowledge. This is what Vishal is appealing all our youngsters who are joining mutual fund industry business. And those who are still thinking, please don't think too much. Join the business of mutual fund distribution because I don't think in this world any other profession is as noble as making others happy and make them achieve their dreams and goals with the help of proper financial planning. So women and youth, these are the two segments wherein we can definitely work hard towards on the growth of our mutual fund industry. Vishal, Bandhan Mutual Fund and you personally, I'm aware that is a big fan of financial literacy, spreading awareness, conducting investor awareness programs. What is your view? How we can improve upon conducting quality investor awareness program, spreading financial literacy, especially amongst women, youth, corporate employees, and even the professionals and lower strata income group people to build a very strong nation. And Bandhan Mutual Fund is the pioneer in having so many good tools, one idiot, one of its kind of an initiative. And I'm a big fan of those films. Vishal, can you please tell us what are the other initiatives you are planning to take as far as financial literacy and investor awareness program is concerned?
Thanks, Alpa, firstly, for acknowledging the work that we've been able to do. And this is an area that is truly a passion within our company. We challenge ourselves as much as we can because I think we all must recognize that at its heart, the mutual fund is a great product. It's done wonders for people in terms of creating wealth. We've got countless stories of people who've really transformed their lives by being able to invest over a long period of time. But at the other end, we also recognize it's not that easy to communicate the benefit of a product. Finance in general tends to be a bit boring. And therefore, the challenge is how do we speak in a language that our new customer understands? And that's been the heart of how we've challenged ourselves. So several years back, we said that Bollywood has a unique way of communicating with its audience. So can we employ a great director, Amar Gupte, to come and work with us and make some great films? And we did that through One Idiot and then the sequel Return of One Idiot, where we narrated through a very engaging style, uh, two or three or four simple ideas, but in a very engaging way. And it's great to see that our partners, the industry at large, is still using it as actively as it was maybe 5, 6 years back, if not more. We then moved on to saying that experiential learning is another area that has worked well, and how do we engage a lot of newcomers to finance to really get into problem solving mode, as many people will understand that doing is the best form of learning, and how do you get them to solve problems. And we created a program called Sam Ki Samasya, where Sam's life problems is what the audience or the group tries to solve, and in doing that you're learning about the basics of personal finance. So that's just another way to talk in a language that the customer, the new age investor, can understand. Talking about new age investors, Gen Z, we found, is into gaming as an example. They're online all the time, and we said, okay, how do we engage them? And we created an online game called Bandhan Game of Life. And the game of life is, again, challenges you to go through life with a certain income and expense requirements that the game throws at you. And in doing that, hopefully you're learning about life. So the idea is that how can we speak in language that the customer understands, make it relevant, make it impactful, and therefore get them to come and invest, not just trade. And I'm saying invest because we also see a lot of people chasing quick returns and get rich quick type of an approach. No, we want people to understand that wealth creation needs a lot more discipline and patience, and if you be at it, there's a great chance that you can actually benefit yourself. So other tools, like for example, are SIP Pen, which is a very simple way for you to illustrate that how compounding can work. It's done. Even today we see wonders in increasing the tenor of your SIP, increasing the amount you can contribute, because a simple illustration of at different rates of return, how a 5-year SIP versus a 20-year SIP could be different in terms of the quantum you can save. These are simple ways in which we can share the benefit of mutual funds and the benefit of what we can bring to them as long-term compounding, the benefit that India offers through growth in a more effective way. Now the job is not done, will never be done, because at another level we must appreciate that at an industry we are at about 4.5 crore investors, when clearly there is opportunity for 5-10 times more number of investors over time. So we will continue to work on it. I would encourage all our viewers to also give us ideas on things you think you can work. We can partner with you or leverage our tools, and to the extent they can be effective for you, please use them. They are freely available, and the movies and the games, etc., can be organized for you. But leverage this, because here's a great opportunity for Indian investors, and we want everyone to participate in that.
So Vishal, you have been off late doing many podcasts, and I think that's the future. Can you please throw us some lights on how you are reaching people digitally?
No, great question, Alpa. So I think we evolve with the use and the behavior we see of our investors. And one of the behavior we saw was that podcasts have become very easy for you to actually be able to connect, in your own space at your own time with new information that's coming. So we run a podcast called Money Wise, which is on personal finance, where we invite guests. So some of the guests are experts, MFDs, mentors, including sometimes fund managers, economists, etc., to talk on different topics. And the idea is that in a 10, 12, 15-minute capsule, you can actually get a reasonably good understanding of one area that the topic is about. We found it to become very popular, because as MFDs, one can learn from the expertise that we are bringing through the podcast, but also you can share it with your investors. And often these are bites that your investor will actually benefit from as well, because a lot of this is about fundamentals of personal finance. So it makes your life easier, because you're getting someone else's information, some thoughts, thrown in as value addition to your investors. So that's a great way. The podcast is very popular. It's among the best rated. That's on personal finance. We run a separate podcast for the experts, for MFDs who want to learn about macro and how that is shaping some of the factors that go into your investment decisions or your recommendations. So we run a podcast called Let's Talk Macro. This is hosted by our economist Srijit, and Srijit brings to us some of the more evolved nuances of how to read some of the signals and some of the things happening, not just in the Indian economy, but also in the US or Europe or China, and how it impacts India and how it impacts your investment decisions. So that's a podcast meant for you as the expert. One of the things I would offer is that as MFDs, being in the knowledge economy, we must also appreciate that our investors, our customers are learning as quickly, if not even faster than we are. And therefore, we must stay ahead of the game. And to stay ahead, we must learn at a faster rate than many of our investors will, otherwise we'll fall behind. These are great tools for us to very effectively keep in touch and be ahead of where our investors are. And that is a core source of value we must not give up on. Because end of the day, I don't want to go to a doctor where the person is still stuck, 30 years back in his expertise. I want to go to someone who's really up to date, and similar with my advisor or my distributor.
Thank you, Vishal, for your time. From your busy schedule, you have given us many thought processes to be provoked in. And also, finally, Vishal, I must say that you have touched upon youth, women, investor awareness programs, online, artificial intelligence, or phygital, what we call in today's world, and how mutual fund distributors can grow their business multifold. And Bandhan Mutual Fund is committed and absolutely organically, ethically working towards investor awareness and education. And I'm sure in future, we all as an industry stakeholders will get benefited. So thank you very much, Vishal, once again for your time.